Good afternoon to all the followers of the Secrets of Betrayal channel. My name is Layla, and today I'm sharing with you a real story, something that really happened in my life. I currently live in Greater Atlanta, a city that never stops, always full of movement and excitement. I'm 23 years old and I've been dating Jack for as long as I can remember. He works as a motorcycle courier, and his routine is quite tiring, as he spends all day making deliveries and, on some nights, he's also out and about, especially when the volume of orders increases. Recently, I made a significant decision in my life. I quit my job, where I had been for a few years, to follow my dream of becoming self-employed. This change was something I had been planning for a long time, and I finally decided to take the step. I decided to open my own business as a manicurist. It was a bold decision, but it had always been a desire of mine. I currently have a small salon on a busy street in the city. The atmosphere is unpretentious but welcoming, and it already meets my needs very well. We live together in the same neighborhood where my business is also located. Jack and I grew up here, and despite the changes that life brings, we've never wanted to leave the area. We are deeply rooted in the community, which has made us well known. People recognize us, whether it's from the deliveries Jack makes or the relaxed conversations we often have on street corners. My clientele is made up mainly of friends who have complete confidence in my work and the quality of the services I offer. They love visiting my salon and always comment that they leave feeling more beautiful. However, like anywhere, I also face some rivalries here. This neighborhood is full of envy, especially from some women who can't stand the success of others. I always try to be discreet, but I know that somehow I end up attracting a lot of attention. I'm a short woman, measuring 1.65 meters, but my body is very well cared for. I like to go to the gym regularly, and I eat a balanced diet. The result is a sculpted body that often attracts looks of both admiration and envy. But what makes me stand out most is my blonde hair. It's my pride, long and silky, down to just below my buttocks. It's a real charm and, I confess, something that makes me feel special. I fell in love with Jack when we were very young, practically teenagers. Since then, I've never been involved with anyone else. He was my first love and, to this day, my only love. However, as in every relationship, we've had our ups and downs. A few years ago, a rumor started circulating that he had cheated on me with a woman who worked at the pizzeria where he delivered. At first, I was reluctant to believe it, but the gossip grew so much that it ended up having an impact on our relationship. So we decided to separate for a few weeks, to reflect on everything. During this period, I had several opportunities to move on and connect with other people, but I simply couldn't. Even though I was upset and hurt by the whole situation, I still felt that I loved Jack deeply. I couldn't imagine being with anyone else. He, on the other hand, seemed to be living life in a very different way. He was posting photos and videos on social media, having fun at clubs and parties, always surrounded by friends and with a drink in his hand. That hurt me more than I'd like to admit. Seeing him enjoying himself while I was in pieces was a real blow to my heart. Before continuing with this real-life account of infidelity, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. When we got back together, after all that time apart, Jack asked me if I had been with anyone during our time apart. I answered truthfully that no. I had only ever been with him. I've always been faithful. And even during that break, I couldn't get interested in anyone else. Jack, for his part, said that he hadn't been with anyone during that period either. But I confess that I still have my doubts. As much as he denies it to this day, both the betrayal and getting involved with someone while we were apart, something inside me still questions whether he was really honest. This uncertainty leaves me with a knot in my stomach, and even though I want to believe his words, the shadow of doubt always hangs over us. Since we started dating again, everything had changed. It wasn't like before. It felt like something had been lost between us. Perhaps the trust, or even some of the complicity we used to have. I can't say for sure, but I miss something that only existed before all these problems. Then, in August of this year, my life took a turn. Jack suddenly told me that his father, Owen, was coming back from Portugal and that he was going to spend a few days with us until his apartment was handed over. I had only seen my father-in-law once in my life, and that was before I started dating Jack. He had moved to Portugal at the time in search of a better life and more money. This news made me a little apprehensive, as I didn't know what it would be like to live with him after so long. When he left, he was already separated from Jack's mother. Owen was in his 50s and was already showing the signs of age. Seeing him, I thought that perhaps the responsibility of looking after him could be ours from now on. After all, when parents get older, it's natural for their children to take on that role. Not that I saw this as a problem, but I thought Jack should have prepared me better in case it really was the case that his father was going to stay longer or need care. This situation made me a little apprehensive, as I didn't know how it would impact our life together. However, I accepted the situation without complaint, because to be honest, Owen had always helped us financially. If I managed to start my own business, it was largely thanks to the money he sent from Portugal. Besides, it had been many years since Jack had seen his father. I thought that, in a way, this could be positive, perhaps even helping to strengthen the bond between the two of them. Owen's presence could bring a new dynamism to our routine and perhaps improve their relationship a little. On the day Owen arrived, Jack was euphoric and anxious, like a child waiting for a present. They hadn't seen each other for so long that it was thrilling to see him so excited. I, on the other hand, had a slight headache. Just the thought of having two men in the house to make a mess was starting to make me feel stressed. When the time came, Owen texted Jack to let him know that he was already at the door. Jack and I went to greet him together, but what I saw took me completely by surprise. Guys, I really didn't expect that. The man standing at our door had nothing to do with the image I had in mind. Owen was completely different. Dark and fit, with a fit body that made it clear that he took good care of himself. He had several tribal tattoos all over his body, and his gray hair matched perfectly with his neatly trimmed beard. His clothes were super stylish, and I would never have guessed he was 58. He looked like a well-groomed man of no more than 40. Jack hugged his father with great emotion, and the two of them declared themselves visibly touched. When Owen saw me, he was surprised and commented, "Wow, Layla, you look beautiful. Is my son taking good care of you?" I was a little embarrassed by the compliment, but I went up to him and hugged him, thanking him. I felt the firmness of his body as he wrapped me in his embrace. As women know, there's a big difference when you hug someone tightly. It's as if you don't want to let go. We closed the gate and entered the house. As we walked down the corridor towards the living room, I noticed that Owen couldn't take his eyes off me. It was as if I had hypnotized him, and he seemed completely absorbed by my presence. When we got to the living room, we put Owen's suitcases down by the sofa and settled down for a chat. Owen began to share his adventures around Europe and other continents, revealing himself to be a very experienced and interesting man. Jack and I were completely fascinated by his stories. Jack, like any curious man, wasted no time in asking about women from other countries. Owen, with a mischievous grin, revealed that he had a mistress in every place he visited. Jack burst into laughter, as if he were watching a comedy show, finding the story hilarious and impressive. I won't lie to you, I was also finding Owen extremely interesting, especially when he started talking about his adventures and antics. The hours went by, and the evening approached, while the conversation flowed animatedly between us. We were all hungry, so we decided to order a pizza from the place where my boyfriend works as a motorcycle courier. The guys had already started drinking beer, and I didn't want to hold my breath, so I decided to open some cheap wine that was in the fridge. While we were waiting for the pizza, Owen told me that he would only be staying with us for 2 days. This news made Jack sad, and he asked why his father was leaving so quickly. Owen explained that his apartment was ready, and that he was just waiting for the keys to arrive. He added that he was going to live nearby, and that Jack didn't need to worry as he would always be close by. Jack took the news in his stride and went back to enjoying his beer. It was then that Owen started talking to me, noticing that I was a little quiet. He asked how my business was going and if I had many clients. I replied that everything was going well and thanked him for the help he always gave us. He smiled and said he was always happy to help. When the pizza arrived, Jack offered to pick it up and set the table and asked me to help his father with the suitcases and show him to his room. Owen brought 3 suitcases, 2 medium-sized and 1 small. Curious, I asked where the rest of his clothes were. He told me that his belongings were already in the new apartment, all ready for his arrival. When we got to the bedroom, Owen asked me to wait a moment. He told me that he had a souvenir for me, and that he would give one to Jack later. When Owen opened one of the suitcases, I noticed a handcuff and a completely black mask. He saw that I'd seen it and started laughing, a bit awkwardly, trying to explain the situation. Curious, I went straight to the point and asked him what he was doing with a handcuff and a mask. I even joked about whether he was planning to rob a bank. Owen told me that it was nothing like that, and explained that he liked to wear them to distract himself. He mentioned that he wasn't traditional like most people, and that if it was good for both of us, there was no need to have boundaries. And he said that he always took his private suitcase on important, long trips. I found it super interesting and became even more curious. It was all new to me, and I'd always wanted to try it. Jack has always been a bit averse to such things and never wanted to buy anything like that. Owen noticed my interest and said he would show me the rest of the toys in the suitcase later. He then asked if Jack wore anything like me and commented that he asked that because he saw how surprised I was. I answered Owen by saying that Jack had always been hard-headed on this subject and that he would never accept something like this. I also commented that I had always been curious about these things and asked if many people used them. Owen confirmed that yes, it was quite common, especially among couples. At that moment, Jack called us from the kitchen, and we had to end the conversation. We went there, where we ate and drank. The evening seemed endless, and I was anxious to see the rest of the items in my father-in-law's suitcase. Curiosity was overwhelming me, and I couldn't wait to explore everything Owen had mentioned. When it was late at night, around 2 a.m, Jack fell asleep on the sofa while I continued talking and laughing with Owen about his adventures around the world. Then he invited me back to his room, where he promised to show me what was in his suitcase. I looked at Jack and saw that he was fast asleep, so I agreed to go with Owen. As we walked down the corridor, my heart started racing and my body warmed up. I knew what was in the suitcase, but I was still anxious to see everything with my own eyes. When we got to the room, Owen wasted no time and started opening the suitcase quickly. I was afraid Jack would wake up and catch us in that situation. It would be impossible to explain something like that. When he opened the suitcase, I was mesmerized to see the variety of toys and handcuffs that were there. There was a bit of everything, and I had no idea how most of them worked. It was all new to me, and curiosity was completely overwhelming me. My father-in-law began to show me how each item worked, explaining in theory how everything worked. I was impressed by how quickly some of the toys could be used and how firm the handcuffs were. The black mask also caught my eye, and I couldn't take my eyes off it, imagining Owen wearing it. Noticing my gaze fixed on the mask, he picked it up and placed it over his face, joking. With a smile, he said, "This is how it looks. Do you like it?" The sight of Owen with the mask made me even more curious and intrigued. I was at a loss for an answer and nervously started to laugh. I commented that the mask looked great on him, trying to lighten the mood. When he took the mask off, I couldn't help myself and kissed him. The wine had already gone to my head, and with him wearing that mask, I was having thoughts and sensations I'd never imagined I could have. He kissed back, and the passion between us became uncontrollable. The sensation was new to me, an intense mixture of desire and vivacity that I had never experienced before. That night with my father-in-law was unlike anything I had ever known. He made me feel things and experience sensations that I never thought possible. We finished, and I quickly left the room, where Owen stayed and closed the door. I went into the bathroom and took a shower. Then I woke Jack up to go to sleep in his room. Sleep and tiredness got the better of me, and I only woke up the next day with a massive hangover. When I turned over, Jack was already awake. I heard his voice coming from the living room, where they were watching soccer. I got up, said hello, and went to the kitchen to get something to eat. I noticed that Owen was acting normally, as if nothing had happened between us. He knew how to hide his feelings very well. After a few minutes, Owen appeared in the kitchen just behind me and said quietly, "Don't worry. I know how to separate things. I'm very open-minded about it. We're fine, see?" I nodded, confirming that everything was fine and that I'd enjoyed it. The words came out without me realizing it, as if Owen knew exactly what I was feeling. Over the next few days, while Owen was still with us, we decided not to repeat what had happened. I was too afraid of Jack finding out, and I knew that it would be a huge disrespect to him. The feeling of guilt and the fear of being caught consumed me. I saw it as a kind of revenge, a response to what I believed had been Jack's betrayal in the past. Although my conscience warned me about the lack of respect, the feeling of having somehow repaid him made me feel a mixture of relief and guilt. As the days passed, Owen moved into his new apartment and is planning a party to celebrate the new phase. He invited us to the event, and to my surprise, sent me a pix of $2,000 to buy a new outfit for the occasion. Now I'm facing a big problem. I feel like I'm developing feelings for my father-in-law, and this is making me very confused. I don't know how to deal with this situation, and I'm looking for advice. I ask you to be understanding, and if you are going to judge, remember that nobody is perfect. Thank you in advance for your support and advice. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a comment and a like until the next report.